Hello, this is Cho of the Shiny Colors Discord. Have you heard? It has arrived at last. Ah, the dramatic entry. I can almost hear the drums echoing this proclamation. You gotta love their enthusiasm. So much so, they decided to move up the release date, supposedly, but we can talk about that another time. Anyway, it has been tradition since the original Cinderella Girls MOBA game that a branch will get its 3D rhythm gacha game somewhere down the line. CGSS, MLTD, Live on Stage, Growing Stars, and now Song for PRISM, developed by Bandai Namco Studios themselves. At least this time they didn't forget to put the developer on the home screen. Song for PRISM is a relatively ambitious gacha game in terms of content, of excellent presentation, and fun gameplay. Though by 2023 standards, that's practically what every title should strive for. Now, you might certainly be wondering, should I need to know anything about Idolmaster in order to play? That's the best part. You don't, for the most part. All the idols you'll meet in Song for PRISM are from a time where they've just started working for Tsubasa Pro, and Shiny Colors itself doesn't exactly have anything like prequels or canon related to other franchises. That being said, many of the idols carry characteristics or mannerisms in Song for PRISM that they didn't entirely start with in the original Shiny Colors. So I recommend learning what you can about Enza's storyline, at least for your favorites, or characters you're most interested in. So, I hope you have installed the app before we move on to our next section. Although, considering that this app is only available in Japanese, this first step may be somewhat complicated for many. Song for PRISM has two primary modes, Produce mode and a Rhythm mode. Let's start with production, since familiarizing ourselves with producing will make the rhythm section much more rewarding. In Produce mode, you develop fest cards for live performances. When you start producing, you need to choose the unit to produce and the difficulty of the production run. At first, only Easy is available, but after a successful clear, you'll unlock the unit's normal difficulty, then Hard after clearing normal. The higher the difficulty, the higher the stats of the cards you produce. If you aim for SS rank in the Rhythm mode, you'll need to prepare yourself for Hard mode. In your unit settings, you'll be able to select the respective idol's Produce card and support cards alongside the inheritance system. Produce cards determine the idol's starting stats, their vocal, dance, visual, or mental. The card will also determine the character's skill and live skills available, shuffled later when you finish the run. At this early point of the game, your options are fairly limited, so for now, just follow the suggested stat when you can. The support cards determine the supports you get when the character is present, stat boosts, recovery boosts, and all that. You can select 3 of your own, and 1 from a friend, a distinct difference from producing in the original Shiny Colors. It's better to choose supports with a focused orientation, either by having more stats, or by gaining more fans. We'll explain why fans are important a little bit later. Recognize that higher rarity cards have more communes, which gives you a direct boost to your stats when triggered. The higher the rarity, the higher the boost. Start testing and practicing until you find the best combination for the team you want to play. A bit of advice for this time. We recommend bringing along either your own or a friend's SSR Hazuki or Hana support. Finally, we have the inheritance system. This is used to pass passive skills from previous runs to the next. It can range from a maximum boost to your PP or play points, or more direct appeal multipliers. So choose whichever feels the more appropriate for the run you do next. Up next are the activities. Each time a season starts, you get to choose the season boost, such as an increase in strength to specified activities, reducing your trouble chance, or getting specific cards for your deck. The activity system depends on stamina, which you'll always start runs with 100. By default, you have 21 weeks in order to raise your idols. In roguelike fashion, you'll have up to 6 activities you can choose from at random. You'll also have 3 opportunities, one at the end of each season, to defeat your rivals in performances. Simple, right? For the activities, there are many of them. With lessons, you get your first look at the new game mode that Song for PRISM incorporates into its producing. We'll go into more detail later. For now, let's focus on what is obtained from this activity. Relatively low stat gain, but you get a unit-specific card. Also, each lesson has an optional challenge, which will grant an all-stat boost to a single idol in your unit. SP lesson, which gives you the opportunity to upgrade your available cards. This ranges from crucial to non-important, depending. For stat builds, don't worry about this too much. For Tours builds, this is a godsend. Job sites are moderate stat gains in addition to a generic card. This also grants you a decent amount of fans as well. Self-lesson or training results in great stat gain. You won't get any new cards though, which can be dangerous if you're not careful. Both work and training have what's known as the trouble gauge. The lower your stamina, the more likely you are to experience trouble, which not only reduces your stamina, but you also gain no stats for failing. Up to this point, all the activities mentioned have the possibility of leveling up, which improves the stats gained from any activity, though at the cost of higher stamina costs. However, in the case of lessons, the difficulty increases as well, so be careful of taking higher level lessons without sufficient stat gain to match it. The rest of the activities do not consume stamina, as all of the above do, and some even recover stamina instead. Travel, whose effects are completely random, but it won't consume stamina. It's suggested if you need to play it safe and are low on stamina but can't afford an off day. Shopping, no stat gain, but you get a generic card and slightly recover your stamina. A day off, recover a chunk of stamina. If your luck is poor, these can feel fairly rare, so pay close attention to them when they do show up. Office talk. This is a somewhat rare event to appear, however, it serves to erase a card from your deck. While not generally recommended, certain unit strategies can grow more consistent with careful card removal. Next up, the most important part, card battles. Your goal is simple. Fill your appeal gauge to full before the time runs out or your rival fills up there. To use a card, simply swipe up on your screen to automatically apply the card's stated effects. Keep in mind that all cards have a cost, known as PP or play points, in order to be played. You may have to wait a few moments before unleashing devastating card combos, depending on their cost. One very important thing to note, this is not turn-based. This is in real time. Thankfully, Song for PRISM has relatively clear visual indicators in order to know what your cards do. The general idea is that cards with a green star icon score points towards your appeal bar with the judge or trainer, while cards with an orange upwards arrow grant various buffs depending on the card used. Said buffs can depend on the unit you're producing. There are plenty other icons, but these two will be the first you'll want to remember. Your cards all use your stats to calculate damage, so building your stats around your cards and vice versa is key. And remember, the cost of your cards can be generated over time too. Don't fill up your deck with too many high-cost cards that you can't play, or cards that don't play to your strengths. You can also use character skills, which also cost PP and are limited to once per battle. Luckily, these skills are not bound to the luck of the draw, so they're great to use in a pinch. The rivals and trainers will do their shenanigans too, in real time. It can range from increasing your costs on cards, dealing direct damage to you, where while you won't retire if your health reaches 0, you'll be stunned temporarily, which in a game where it only provides you 30 seconds or 90 seconds depending, that can be absolutely fatal. The last thing to know is each unit demands different playstyles, reminiscent of their units' playstyles in the original Shiny Colors. Illumination Stars have average PP cost, which can be reduced by utilizing your members' appeals that lower PP cost for several seconds. Many cards also receive effects if their cost is reduced, allowing for some high combo potential. Antika cards reduce your own mental on each use. To offset this, many of their best cards increase in strength based on how low your current mental is, and in a pinch, have access to some small bursts of healing. Take careful risks as you gradually whittle down your own health before turning the tides with revenge-like appeals. Hokago Climax Girls are all about generating advantage. Many of their cards increase in strength as your hand size grows, and can even expand how many cards you can hold at a time. With their relatively low PP costs, build a devastatingly large hand and take the battle to your rivals in a decisive blow. Alstroemeria is like Antika, but in a much more distinct way. The higher your current mental is, their appeals gain greater effects, the reverse of Antika, at the cost of paying mental to play them. Offset this self-inflicted damage with healing cards. Stack up mental guards to reduce how much mental you lose, and utilize cards like Chiyuki to speed up how fast your PP recovers, allowing for even faster play. Stray Light is about stacking up effects as efficiently as possible. See the vocal, dance, and visual numbers on the mental bar? That's your ammo, we'll say. Start your plays with cards that load your ammo, and once enough ammo is loaded, your appeals become even stronger. Many of their buff stacking cards are cheap on cost, allowing for methodical card play into a one-shot victory. Nocchill's playstyle revolves around evasion. Use your cheaper cards to build up stacks of evasion, and watch as you avoid damage and gain effects on your cards for the number of successful dodges. Their alternate strategy uses their evasion as a weapon. Similarly to Stray Light, Nocchill has extremely powerful cards that can expend all their evasion to unleash devastating appeals. Nobody's safe when Nocchill gets serious. Sheez is a deck about balancing two sides. Many of Sheez's cards buff the Nichika side of your deck or the Mikoto side, which is brought together by cards that allow you to switch between Mikoto and Nichika mode. Balance your deck around being able to freely switch between your two modes to reap the most benefit from your coordinated plays. Cometic, the newest unit, has a deck unlike any of the others before this. In fact, this resulted in players comparing them to Yu-Gi-Oh! For their playstyle. It's time to bring about some chaos, with a bit of some thunderous dragons. Haruki and Hana's cards are extremely expensive, meaning you'd be wasting a lot of time waiting to play them as is. This is where Luca steps in. Her cards are designed to banish other cards from your hand, which when banished, have their own effects activate, such as recovering PP or dealing out direct damage to your rivals. This also buffs other Haruki and Hana cards, which gain additional effects when a certain number of cards are currently banished, such as reduced PP cost or multiplying damage when the banish pile is large enough. It certainly sounds a lot like Yu-Gi-Oh!, right? In addition to this, many of their cards grant you effects to search out more specific cards from deck to hand, while letting you establish a powerful loop of resources. Just remember to keep your Luca cards in the deck, and avoid banishing them to turn off your engine. In a pinch, some Luca cards allow you to shuffle some amount of your banished cards back into the deck, re-establishing your plays. Progress through each week, clear your auditions, and with a little bit of elbow grease, pat yourself on the back, because you've won your produce mode. The reward is all of your members receive a Fest card to use in lives. That's right, not just one member, but the whole unit at once. For example, when you're producing on Tika, a run will produce you cards for Kogane, Yuika, Kiriko, Sakuya, and Mamimi in a single run. Convenient, huh? There is one final thing to decide, the live skill. It's randomly shuffled, but you can shuffle the drawn skill around between your unit members. How cool is that? Now for the rhythm game section. This too is in real time. I mean, of course. What, were you expecting this to be a turn-based rhythm game? Just like in other rhythm games, the note size varies, and there are taps, holds, and slides. It's not too strict. You need to follow the lines though. Going outside of the perimeter means a miss. Unlike some other rhythm games, getting a good does not count as breaking a combo, meaning your combo and full combo challenges will be much more lenient than in other rhythm games. Thank goodness. One notable aspect with Song for PRISM is the LB cost. A standard in other rhythm games like Project Sekai, you can hold up to 10 LB at once. You can spend these before you play a song to increase their reward in accordance to how much LB you spend. You can also choose to not spend any LB, resulting in effectively free play for any song at the cost of a lower reward. You also have the ability to either autoplay a song or skip a song, depending on the situation. Good for simply grabbing the rewards, or for enjoying music videos with the idols you choose. As for the song difficulties, you have Easy, Expert, and Master. I definitely recommend practicing each song's chart first on lower difficulties before jumping to Master. Now, many of you are certainly no stranger to rhythm games, which means you'll be able to start FCing songs without much trouble, but you might notice your overall score seems low. To raise your score, this is where your produce cards come in. Raise strong idols, then return to these songs to awaken your master. Score. Other elements that play a role in this scoring are the use of characters that sing the song, and support boosts. For example, if you're playing a She's song, Nichika and Mikoto will receive a bonus if they're used here. For support boosts, only the individual vocal, dance, visual, and mental scores of other characters that are not being used as the on-stage will be taken. The system automatically chooses 2 characters for each stats. If you produced an idol that has a higher stat than any of the 8 that are here, they'll be the ones replacing stats. So, good luck with your hard mode produce runs. Even after all this, you might need to upgrade your options. And so it's time for everyone's favorite thing in the world, the gacha. Make note of 2 things. 1. There are 2 types of banners, produce and support. Choose wisely which one you want to draw, too. While this of course sounds really rough, there is a silver lining here. The SSR rate is 5%. For many Idolmaster games, this feels like a godsend. To put things into perspective, Genshin Impact's SSR rate is 0.6%, and even the original Shiny Colors has not quite 5% in practice. In Enza's case, it splits 5% between produce at 2% and support at 3%. So, let's go over some final tips and bits of knowledge before we wrap things up and send you on your way. When you receive or pull a 1 or 2 star character, you cannot directly wear their outfits or costumes outside of produce mode. To unlock these costumes to make them universally available, you need to upgrade the card to 3 stars first. This will require a handful of duplicate copies or event materials depending on the circumstance. If you meet the specific conditions during the first week of produce mode, you can unlock the training camp. This consists of 3 additional days where your character can rest and have lessons to raise stats. You can double check the unlock conditions from your unit's status window. Every time you use your characters in either of the 2 game modes, their trust level increases and their stats do as well. These character basics are added regardless of the star rank they have. Tours mode. You can use your produced units and make them battle for more rewards. By the way, you cannot interchange members here, they can only compete as established groups. Lessons can give more stats to a unique member if you fulfill certain conditions. Either by using an idol skill, ending a lesson with a certain amount of mental remaining, or surpass a certain amount of vocal, dance, or visual points used. If you want to get even more stats, this is the scale of activities by cards and points. Of course, this is conditional and never truly guaranteed. The training sessions could be the ones that give more stats, but the supports could make the lessons or work give even more. By passing hard mode, you unlock auto mode, with which you can spend stamina points more quickly and level up faster. Additionally, you can configure the orientation of automatic production. Still, idols can fail in this mode, so be careful with the produce settings you choose. Although the game has just started, it's certainly a tradition that in every Idolmaster game there will be events where the number of fans you gather matters. So be prepared to be placed in ranking events and turn your friends into rivals. If you've come this far, we will now reveal to you one of the stronger strategies to have a dream team. At least until Bandai decides that it's a little too strong and balances it out. The requirements are, you need to already be producing in hard mode, your supports need to be focused on magazine work, and you might want to have the Hazuki SSR support, preferably at a high level. If you don't, find a friend that has Hazuki available. We mentioned already that when you level up activities, your stamina consumption increases. However, the risk level of job sites is a little lower than taking on lessons or training. The magazine job is relatively crucial here, since it awards all 4 stats equally. So, what you should do is as much work as you can at the magazine shop to level it up. But be careful with your stamina, of course. As long as this levels up quickly, you'll have a very strong team by the end of it. Now, there is a downside to this strategy. Your deck of cards will not be particularly balanced, meaning that auditions will be a bit harder. Since your deck has no impact on your scoring in lives, the stats are all you care about. It's a pretty fair sacrifice. And that is Song for PRISM in a nutshell. So go forth, producers, embrace the challenges, and may your idols shine as bright as a supernova. Until next time.